Atheist Ireland has sent a 21-page legal opinion to the Department of Education on the right to opt out of religious instruction under provisions contained in the Constitution. They say there is no legal basis to force students to attend any religious classes. Well, to discuss this, I'm joined by Jane Donnelly, who is the Human Rights Officer with Atheist Ireland, and Father Iggy O'Donovan, priest and a member of the Augustinian Order. Welcome to the programme. You're both very welcome on News Talk and the Hard Shoulder. Jane, tell me about this letter and what was in it. What were your main points?
The main points is that children do not have to attend. They do not have to sit in the class when religion is taking place. They have a right under the Constitution to be supervised outside of the class. And the opinion also says, the legal opinion, that there's a very good argument to be made that they should be offered another subject. That's one area. If it is to a long opinion, legal opinion, it's 21 pages. Another area is that it doesn't matter if it's a religion about one religion or many religions. You still have the right to not attend. And not attending is not based on the funding of the school. It doesn't matter what funding they're getting. They can't use that as an excuse to deny you the right to not be in the religion class when religion is taking place, because a lot of schools say they haven't resources, but it's not dependent on the resources. The article in the Constitution doesn't mention resources, just funding. So no matter what type of funding or how much funding they're getting, you still have a right.
Oh, okay. Let's leave the ideological and philosophical reasons for this out of the way for the moment. I know you say it's not dependent on the resource, doesn't matter a damn, it's not catered for in the Constitution, but from a practical point of view, if you have, I don't know, 500 or 600 people in secondary school, and half a dozen or a dozen of the parents say, we don't want our kids to attend religious instruction or religion classes, so we want them out of the class. The school then, because it is in loco parentis, has a moral, ethical and legal responsibility to make sure they're looked after. So they've got to find space for them. Now, they either have to delegate a member of the teaching staff or they have to appoint somebody to look after them and supervise them. That in itself, multiplied across all the other schools in the country, would be a big logistical headache.
Absolutely, of course it will. But the issue is that it's in the Constitution. It is our right. They have taken funding on the basis that children not attend the class. Now, for years, that right has just been undermined by church and state. But that right is still there, and we want it, and we want it back. So we're fighting for our rights that have always been in the Constitution. It has just been undermined. There's excuse after excuse after excuse. We have this constitutional right not to be in the class, and students should be supervised outside the class. Okay,
do you accept that? Yes, okay, you have the right, and if the lawyers say you have, who am I to disagree? But you do accept that to provide an alternative, a supervised alternative for them, would require some resources. And most of the schools are put to the pin of their collar where the resources are concerned to know anyway, and that if you take resources to do that, they would be taken away from somewhere else.
That is a practical issue, and we understand.
Well, it's a financial issue. It's either you have the money or you don't. And
yes,
if they don't have the money,
they've taken the money on the basis that we not attend religion classes. It is the constitutional condition of funding. What you're saying is that they have taken the funding under false pretenses. They have taken, that is the basis of their funding.
Well, I don't know if false pretenses is a bit strong. I think the vast majority of the country, 99.9% of the country, would have attended religion classes, certainly up until when I was going to school and when my kids started to school. This has become an issue in the last decade or so. But that was custom and practice since the beginning of the state. So I think false pretenses is putting it a bit strong.
It's if you actually look, the state, at primary level, the state has actually got guidelines. They have what they call the national school rules, because they're all publicly funded national schools. And it's actually part of the contract of teachers that children not attend or not be present at religious instruction. It's in the contract. So it has always been there. The state have recognised it, but nobody wants to give us our rights.
Okay.
Now, if it was the other way around, just think for a moment if it was the other way around, and there was lessons in atheism, and there was Catholic children or other minority faith children obliged to sit in the class or sit in the back of the class, and that was in the Constitution that they had a right to supervision outside the class, or they had a very good argument to make on the grounds of discrimination that they should get another subject. We would never hear the end of it.
There'd be uproar. You're absolutely right. I'm thinking about this from the point of view of who pays for it, essentially. I want to bring Iggy O'Donovan in. Good evening, Iggy. Thank you for joining us. You actually are kind of in agreement with Shane, because you think having religion, compulsory religion in schools is actually not helpful to the church.
Well, I certainly, for one, I would have it as a subject for those who want it. And I can think of very advanced societies such as Scandinavia and Great Britain and Italy, in fact, where it is an academic subject offered along with the others, comparative religion and so forth. And it's of a very high standard, a higher standard than anything we've got.
Well, we're talking about compulsory religion here.
Yes, and so therefore I would be very much for the responsibility for catechesis and religious teaching being in the parish, in the believing community, in the church, if you like, in whatever church that might be, not just the Catholic Church or Muslim, there are other churches and groups. So I wouldn't have a difficulty there. In fact, even from a practical point of view, leave the philosophical out of it again for a second, as what you were saying a moment ago to Jane, that under the present system, it's not even working anyway. Because,
how do you mean? What do you mean by that?
Because anybody will tell you that the majority of our younger people are leaving school nowadays. If you like, they're not really catechized in the practice of the faith in any sense of that term. They go through a program, all right. And so that even from the church's point of view, there's a lot in what Jane says about taking it, if you like, at least leave it optional for those who want it. It's taught then for those who want it. And the parish is responsible then for things like sacramental preparation. I'll give you a simple example, which is already happening. I was involved some years ago with a Gael school in Drogheda. And they had the kids who opted for the sacraments, such as First Holy Communion, were prepared for it outside of class time by a catechist who came in, was paid by the parents separately, incidentally, and they did an excellent program, the best that I knew of. And I have been involved in this for over many years in parishes and whatnot. And it simply was out of the classroom. And so therefore there was no issue, there was no problem whatever. And the net result was that people who would have Jane's point of view were very happy there, no problem. And those who had another point of view were equally looked after. And we were all happy. And I certainly would be all for that.
There is I suppose it's very sad for somebody like you, but there's a great deal of hypocrisy about all of this. I mean, you will see children for their confirmation, and the next time you might see them again is actually at a funeral or a wedding. It could be 10, 15 years before they set foot in a church again. Well,
let's face it, our celebration of sacraments today is in inverse proportion to our belief in them. That is a fact. And I know that...
Do you think religious education plays a large part in that? That the way it's taught and how it is compulsory and forced on people and actually trying to be taught to people who probably are not old enough or developed enough or evolved enough yet to understand the kind of the deep mysteries behind theology.
I'm old enough to remember when the Catholic Church, to a very large extent, your practice in this country, in my was almost universal. But much of it had to do with social pressure to conform. But there was a totally and inadequate understanding of the faith. So that it was many ways, it was a house of cards. And I think people like Jane might be bringing us to our senses here. That it was a house of cards, so when it came under pressure, so much of it collapsed. Now, I'm not on about stopping kids having their sacraments and being prepared for them. I am not. But the fact that it should be part and parcel of a secular educational system, there's a big difference between having religion as an academic subject with a decent standard, comparative religion, where they come away with a solid knowledge of the faith and other faiths and atheism and humanism and other things. I'm all for that. But I think that where we're talking about catechesis and preparation for sacraments, there's a very strong case to take it out of the classroom and into the believing community. And I think that would very largely meet to some of what Jane has been
well,
saying.
Let's bring
her
in on that. Jane, I think I don't know whether you'd have been surprised by what Father Iggy said or not, but you can answer or give me your reaction to what he said there. And also I want to put the question to you that I think a lot of people who may not like your viewpoint would think this is really about getting Catholicism out of Irish schools altogether.
Well, that's their view, and they're entitled to it.
You're not anti any religion, are you?
No, I don't.
This isn't. You're not on a crusade to get the Catholic Church out of the schools.
We want our rights. We want our rights. We really do want our constitution and human rights, and all our policies are based on that. And I welcome what Iggy has said, but there is also another issue. He is talking about an academic subject about religion. Now, the state has what they refer to as an academic subject of religion at second level, which was developed by the National Council for Curriculum and Assessment. So one of the main aims of what you refer to as an academic subject on religion is to develop values to teach children about the relevance of religion to their lives. And they're saying that this course is for all religions and none, and many schools are making this compulsory. Now, if the course was teaching all students about the relevance of atheism to their lives, again, we would never hear the end of it. But this is the state. This is an exam subject at junior certificate level, and it's just been updated. So this is the state saying this to atheists and humans and non-religious, that it's okay for us, the state, to teach your children about the relevance of religion to their lives, and to have understandings of what the divine, when we don't even believe in the divine.
Oh, okay, so is your point and your organisation's point that you actually want all religious teaching out of the state schools and state curriculum?
We haven't got an issue, and we're on record of this, as having an objective course about religions, beliefs and ethics. But we have already tried to bring that into this country. If you remember, the Forum on Patronage and Pluralism made a recommendation for a course on education about religions, beliefs and ethics. Now that, the NCCA developed some course, but it was scrapped because of the objections of the Catholic Church, because the Catholic Church object to objective religious education, or education about religions, beliefs and ethics. So you can't really have it in that country. And teachers, they have a good bit control still in teacher training colleges, and teachers are not trained to teach religion, religious education and beliefs objectively.
Well, look, this is obviously a very detailed and complex subject,
yes,
it's not something that we can get to the bottom of here. But for the time being, I want to thank both of you. It's something I'm sure we'll come back to. So that was Jane Donnelly, who's the Human Rights Officer of Atheist Ireland, and Father Iggy O'Donovan. Thank you for both indeed for joining us here on The Hard Shoulder.